not always jumping back and forth between different ministry initiatives. Let's do this now. Let's do that now. Let's do this other thing. It's planning, right? It's planning. So the steps in planning the CMRP are up here. They're no secret. This is in the I lost more than 10. Yeah, the last meeting. Okay, so the steps in this are, number one, first of all, before you do any of this planning, there's something that I didn't include up here that I'm going to tell you about, and you should have already done this. And if you're not doing this, your OAR probably looks terrible. Because you should know what your commander's vision, goals, values, religious support needs of your unit, all that you should already kind of know. And if you don't know those things, how can you put them on things like your OER? You need to know what is important to your commander, because that's what he's doing here. It's not your own program, it's your commander's program. It's on his OER. You can get a copy of that, it'll tell you. Then he probably has it, somebody sees it, it's in the front, by the S1, it says, commander's vision, nobody looks at that stuff. But you need to look at it, you need to get a photo of it, and you need to put those things down, and that's the stuff you need to be about. That's the stuff this CMRP really, this should be nested. His vision, his goals, and all those things, and kind of the makeup of your unit should be nested in your CMRP. So that should have already kind of been in process, and if you're not doing that, go ahead and do that. Then what we want to do is brainstorm. And this is where I'm going to help you out this morning. We're going to do this again with the brigade who's back, trying to help them with this, because I know the battalion chaplains really need to see this. But this is unconstrained programs. Just pretend like you got all the money in the world and you can do anything you want, and you're going to put it all up there. All the programs that meet your commander's mission, goals, values, and religious support needs of your organization. That's today's training. Is that first initial step. And we're talking about the CMRP, we're really talking about the CMRP for 2021, which begins in October. Now, we should have already had this kind of plugged in. We've been pretty lazy about this. We get our planning like after we're already in ministry. But what we should do is we should have it signed by our commander probably in about January, because that's what's coming down the pike in OS 56. You're really going to have it done in January. All signed, sealed, delivered, done in January for the next year. And I think what it's going to force us to do is a little uncomfortable. It's going to force us to plan. And you say, well, where's the spontaneity in ministry? Well, there could be some, leading of the Holy Spirit type stuff. But it needs to be within the framework. So you need to create a framework for that. Right? You need to create a framework for that. So we brainstorm everything. And then we were going to do, this is also today, we're going to identify sources of funding. There are a number of sources of funding. I'm not going to get into it until we get into it. But you need to think about what money is best money for the program that I want to do. For instance, I'm not going to buy cups and saucers with money that people put in the plate. That makes no sense. I'm going to buy that with a commander's dollar. That's just an example. So we're going to identify the source of the funding. The idea with this, why we're doing this together, is I think that I did this with my battalion chaplains at the brigade level. This can be very helpful because if you're a person that's really not that creative, it kind of gets the juices flowing. And if you're a person that's maybe too creative, this will also kind of help us to zero that in. Like I had a chaplain that wanted to do a softball tournament. And you say, well, okay, so where's the religious support? What's religious about a softball tournament? We have a prayer beforehand. Okay, go back to the drawing board. When you figure out what's religious about a softball tournament, come let me know, and we'll figure it out. Because it might be religious. Maybe we're going to, pinch Jesus or something. I don't know. Maybe there's a way to make that spiritual. I just don't know how that is. So that's kind of what we're going to evaluate. Those kind of things, and we'll start to put this off. But in the first part, right, we're in the no judgment zone. We want to just put it all through. Third, we want to ensure that the events are synced with the garrison RSO and unit training operation calendar. This is after you've got all this kind of set up. You want to make sure that you're not planning your awesome strong bomb in the middle of the trip they planned to California or something to play in the desert. And then you want to complete the online RSRB. And as soon as it's going to be OS 56, but if they're doing pilots now, you know that. And we played with OS 56. It's all right. RSRB is great too. You just need to use it the way it's supposed to be used. You need to think all your resources, place, supplies, people, all these kinds of things, right? These are all resources, and you have to program them in. Kind of the idea is you just envision it, right? What does it look like? What's happening? Here I am at the chapel, and people are coming in. What are they doing? What does it look like? Who's running the soundboard? What's happening over here? What's doing it? Think about all those things. That's kind of how you forecast it. So put the online RSRB, collate the CMRP from the RSRB, and we'll talk about this. There's a way it should go. You should have the cover page on top of it with the command. Probably put the command and vision and stuff, the mission and values in there with it, underneath that. A religious query should be underneath that, because you should be thinking about that, right? You have a full unit of pagans, probably having a Jesus celebration, probably have the best thing. So you need to look at that, what religious query, the UNT vision, because you got ideas too, right? That fit into commander's goals, and you got the way you want it to look. And then you want to schedule the conducting decision brief, and then make sure that the CMRP activities are entered on the training ops calendar and RSO calendar is appropriate states. Let that up. You went in first of all and you talked to the three and made sure you looked on the master. You all have these in your units? You should have these. They're on your SharePoint, I guarantee you. It shows like the master planning all the way out. That's probably an Excel document, and it shows everything that's going to be happening for like till the next deployment. You can look for holes in that, and then you can, also staff it with some of the captains and lieutenants that are in the free shop and just say, hey, is that really a hole there? Is that good? And you may ask them, can you put a temporary kind of placeholder there for me? So I'm thinking about doing something there. And then this buttons it up. Once you get it approved, you're going to go in and you're going to solidify all those dates so that it's on the training calendar. Because if it's not on the training calendar, as far as the unit's considered, it's not happening. You got a great prayer breakfast, Chick-fil-A, flowers, tablecloths, and everything. But if everybody's out training in the field, you're just gonna have a lot of chicken, which isn't a bad thing. But not much prayer probably gonna be happening. So, and then we get down to number. So here's what we're gonna do today. Number one, we're gonna list all the ideas for ministry. This is a no judgment zone. Do not critique anybody's ideas yet. Okay. Then we're going to whittle down the list based on feasibility and time and resource constraints. And who puts time and resource constraints on you? Where do constraints come from? They come from upstream, right? Anything that comes down from upstream, that's your time and resource constraints. Eliminate any items that have little or no religious support value. Think to yourself about which ideas fit your command, vision, mission, goals, values, and RSE best. And then finally, we consider how these programs might be funded. And we're going to look at that. So, now it's time for me to shut up a little bit. Let you talk. All right, so on this board here, is this close enough? We can move forward if we want. Okay. What I want you to do is, doesn't matter how wacky it is. Yes, sir.
Before you can jump, sir, is there also is this something you should consider being renewable every fiscal year along with the funding calendar for?
What I think you're asking me is, are you doing a CMRP every year?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And also sync up with the forest calendar as far as the funding, because this is a funding document.
Right, yeah, you should be talking, that's a good point. You should be talking to your S8 or your S4 about that. Probably somebody in your brigade should be talking to the S8 about that. But that is a good idea, especially after you get it approved by the commander, to sit down with your S8 or your S4 and ask them how we're going to.
Because I was considered that as part of your decision brief. Well, before that even, but yes.
Yeah, I think once the commander wants it, then the SA Esquire is gonna board. I mean, if you got good relationship with your S4, you could talk to them about that too, but, I mean, this is kind of what we're doing with the CMRP, and the reason why we're trying to get it years in advance is this is a document that says how much money we need. So, in theory, all this is compiled and sent up to the chief's office. They say, oh, we need this much money, and then they argue for it with the A, and then the money comes back down. That's in theory. In reality, they're planning 2 or 3 years ahead, so what's happening? We're not getting the information up, the chief's office is going, I think they need this much. And then they're going to, so if we need more, that's why we don't have more, is because we're not asking for more. So that's what this really does. But you do need to sit down, I haven't done that a lot of times, sit down with a 4 and an 8, and it really will grease the
I
skids.
don't know how it works in the active sense, in the guard sense. About 3 months out from the fourth quarter, if you haven't started planning before, you may not get by first quarter, second quarter next year. So you have to, and that's why I'm thinking about the timing of doing the CMRP every time. I've kind of done it pretty much towards the end of that quarter, but I'm just thinking about how you sync it up and making the request so that when there are changes that get funded, in a realistic manner.
Yeah, and that's another argument for really good planning, especially the way you all have it set up. So I think it's a little bit easier on the active duty side. I don't think we have as much of that. Although we're supposed to do that, I think a lot of times we can get the money and it's good. But I think that's the correct process. So we'll plan 1 year out or 2 years out, and you can see how helpful that is, because then nobody likes surprises, right? We did two $27,000 trips to San Antonio while the unit was deployed, much like your unit is deployed now if you're in the brigade. And we did 2 trips to San Antonio with about $50,000. We definitely had to go through the G8 and get that approved, even though the commander wanted to do it, even though he had the budget for it, we had to go through and do that. And that was, because it was such a large amount, it was a big, big deal. Many of your programs are not going to rise to that level, but still, it's a step that needs to happen. Okay, so the idea here is that you just come up with great ideas, and then this is collaborative, so we're learning from one another. This doesn't mean you're going to stick this stuff on your CMRP necessarily. This means this gives you some ideas of what things would be good to do, and it's a peer collaboration. So you kind of see what things make sense. And also you have 56 mics in the room, and what can you see as the benefit of that? I mean, these are the guys that make it happen, right? So it's very important that they would be able to come up with ideas and look at feasibility and these kinds of things. All right, so what are some programs that you think would be really good to have on your CMRP? No idea is a bad idea. Yes.
Softball tournament.
Softball tournament. Just because you want to be that guy.
Fast pitch.
Okay, no, that's one. Okay, we know that's already a bad idea. So we'll put up there just to.
Community relations.
Okay, community relations. So you're talking about like so y'all understand what that's talking about? It's like doing outreach to the community, and we'll talk about that too as far as scope. We have some things here that are kind of like that already built in. So the community relations event. So specifically here we have feeding our family, feeding our awesome events.
Outstanding.
Just food.
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 It's a confusing acronym.
So that's community relations. And that's a good one because it's focused on people on post. We got to be careful of that when it comes to funding, because the funding is intended for a certain group of people. What are some other events that you can think of that would just be awesome idea? We can go old school. MWR teams, okay, what's that?
Oh, I don't think I have. I don't think
We read next to paragraph that's around pre-K and put /lunch.
Lunch.
Some commands,
So I'm gonna put this too. 'cause
some
so-
commands are gonna want it as a lunch.
So here's one that I
there's
did.
flexibility.
We did a spiritual fitness feast for lunch. And what we did is we brought in a text like a text on boundaries, or a text on relationships, or a text on from a Christian perspective. Right? Because we got lots of people speaking from a non-Christian perspective, but we came at it from a Christian perspective. How do I, as a Christian, do better? How do I, as a Christian, have good relationships? So lunch, and I'm going to say spiritual fitness. Also. And make sure when you use spiritual fitness, that you don't use it as just a buzzword, that it actually is spiritual fitness, right? Because it can get kind of broad.
Bible study.
Bible study, I like. Also very old school, very trying to.
Joe likes pizza.
Yeah, and when you talk about all the things come with the pizza and things like that. Good. What else? Yes.
Training, of course, but if you want to dial it down, put in CEUs,
What is it?
continuing education units.
Okay, so TDY type things?
Or for the soldiers.
Oh, for the soldiers?
Well, there's one like as a ministerial sense for the one part of the UMT. The other part is like the training you guys plan on April 2nd.
Okay. Yeah, so you're talking about
UMT training.
who's the target audience? Are you talking about the UMTs or?
UMTs.
UMTs, okay. And then we'll say, external and internal. That sound good? Because with external, we're talking about TY. And with internal, we're talking about what kind of thing? Like maybe with transportation, or what other kinds of things? I don't know if we can buy food for UMT events. I don't think so. Transportation, things like that.
Sometimes materials.
Materials.
What about, services, like, that should be the number one.
Right? That's Title 10. Yeah. First things first. Yeah, and it's interesting, we oftentimes think about ministry here in the chapel of like services, but when you read Title 10, it's like you provide services on Sunday when practicable in your command. I mean, I guess your commander is Colonel Ruga at some point, but you have tiers below that too, right? So could we have other religious services that don't happen in this building?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know what that would look like, but it's a thought.
That's why we always have field kits.
What's that?
That's why all chaplains should have a little field kit.
Little field kit? Yeah. But you can even do something a little more elaborate, if it fit in your religious support plan. If it made sense for your unit, the way your commanders want things done. And all your commanders are different, they all have crazy ideas, they're totally different than the other one, and, it depends.
I think that's the reason why every chaplain has issue with the chaplain kit.
Yeah, the chaplain kit. Yeah, absolutely.
Really, I did my last chaplain did game/movie night.
Okay, game/movie night.
The old timers used to do the duty day with God, which we kind of tossed that aside, oh, that was then. But you can do something hua to get guys out or soldiers out and have a religious aspect tied into it.
Yeah, and the only reason we stopped doing this is because we didn't talk about it. We took some people up to the rocks in El Paso, took them up to the top, and then had a little devotional at the top, kind of like we just did. May have been the exact same devotional. So you can do that, and it makes a lot of sense, and it gets them out of their elements and duty day with God.
And especially if there's some training or a PT type aspect to it. Commander, I mean, you know, first sergeant even will be behind that.
Yeah, so like a spiritual fitness slash physical fitness.
Yeah.
Spiritual fitness type.
I can't count how many times one of my.
Did 'em in
jobs
Hawaii.
did this,
Yeah, Korea too, up the mountains.
Yep.
And, wait a minute, it's, yeah, that's like the run with the chaplain thing with the ghost, yeah. So that's a lot of people have done that, yeah. And again, it depends on your level of physical fitness, you know.
Yeah, you can walk with
We
me.
can go eat donuts with a chaplain. No,
There's a lot of stuff you could word as resiliency or reconnection training, especially for up here in Alaska. You could probably even put expensive coffee makers or crud like that and use them as resiliency and reconnection stations. You can do a lot of stuff of that nature. And they might, depending on who sees your work, your verbiage and buys it, they might, what did you just ask?
Did you say copiers?
Coffee makers, coffee.
Oh.
No,
So like,
not copiers, but,
so like a refreshment.
yeah, just if you want to put a little Jura coffee maker in your unit and you can word it right, someone will buy it for you if they buy off on your idea.
An example of that, when I was at the MP school, I got a cart paid for with You for Money, coffee maker, all the supplies. I got magnetic signs made, Chaplain's Cafe. I'd roll it out into the hallway, so when students came by, or even I'd leave it inside a lot of times when I was there, students came by, they would come in. So there's exposure. I mean, there's value to that because they're coming into the chaplain's office. The chaplain's giving them coffee, so there's value to that. On one of my deployments, the chaplain before me bought a bread maker, and he'd crack the door open when he was making bread, and people would come into the chaplain's office. So there's value to that because, you know, it's something the chaplain's doing, there's interaction with the chaplain.
And you can, depending on what type of thing you get, you can actually quantify it by saying, this month we had 400 cups of coffee made by the machine doing X, it cost X amount of dollars, and it's sustainable through how much funding a month or how much whatever for the next 3 years or whatever.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. When we go through each one of these, let's make sure we get it. We're gonna talk about the funding mechanisms for each of these things. I think it's really important that we think through this. It's great to have come up with great ideas. Are they feasible? Are they actually religious in nature? And how do I pay for them?
There's something I just want. What about care ministry, capital ministry? Because this is pretty much permanent. You know, when you're at the border overseas, it's a sine qua non. It's like as vital as the capital ministry, which you know helps to the soldiers' resilience.
Yeah, great idea. PSC Smith, you've been kind of quiet. What do you think? What's a good program? You think of something? You see partners? You try not to make eye contact with the other kid. Because I think some of the people who are the quietest have some of the best ideas. That's my thought. That's one of the people who's the loudest, I think. Who are quietest have better ideas. You already know, the ones of us that are louder, you already know if we have a good idea or not. So we just tell everybody. So, what do you think, Sergeant? Can you think of some things? You're a resource management kind of guy.
Those are all,
So you're more like, I don't want to spend any money. It's just an audience. What do you think, Sergeant?
Well, last year we did cookouts. I mean, it wasn't part of the program. We just did cookouts with all the soldiers. Barracks cookouts.
Okay. Yeah, what do you think?
Well, something I've noticed is it seems like the best reception comes when there's kind of a mixture. It's not necessarily one thing. something where there's a mixture of elements at work, and people's attention spans can fall.
It may fit into one of those, but taking lunch to, this is more a Garrison thing, but to the directorates, go to their offices, maybe once a month, go to a different one, take lunch and share, give them a few minutes, a little devotional, but, that gives them a chance to meet RSO staff. It shows them appreciation, we're taking them lunch, we can give them a word, a good word.
Directors is big, let's see, sections?
Sections, yeah. Yeah, because that would work with units. That'd work with units too. Take your S4 lunch, go to the one shop, yeah.
Okay. And what's our goal in all these types of things? What's our main goal?
Ministry.
Right? What do we call it in Army?
Religious support.
Religious support. Yep. We're trying to get them something of spiritual value. So keep that in mind as we're taking a look at this.
There is something that I've got this experience in the past. Because sometimes it's not even like sick meetings.
Okay.
Sick meetings. When I was in Ghana, if we didn't have provision for the electronic, connect all the states, to be able to synchronize the mission would have been nice. So like having the projector and everything, being able to have that sync meeting with.
Okay. So providing for the command?
Not just for the command, for the ministry to succeed. Because sometimes we have to synchronize our ministry with, those who are deployed and those who are VTCs, something like that. If it's not sponsored, it doesn't want no money for that.
I see. Oh, I think you're going.
Our Hammond's ready to confirm that board tonight and see the ideas and models.
Well, he's gonna have a big, you're gonna have a big role in this next part of this, because we're gonna take a look at each of these things for a couple of years. Yes.
I don't know, for us, ministerial supplies, it costs stuff like Christmas Eve.
Okay.
Candles. Expensive phones.
So ministerial or ecclesiastical supplies. That's on the CMRP, right? It's a funding document. Need those things.
All your holiday events, how many times a day swear.
Yep. And correct me if I'm wrong, but like, we already know what those are like 5 years from now, right? We even know what those are like 100 years from now. So how hard would it be to plan for holiday events, religious holiday events? Pretty easy, right? They are a fixed point on the calendar. So if you didn't plan for that, who's out? It's like, so religious holiday. And those are a great opportunity too, because they happen all year long. So this is an opportunity to kind of, as we're thinking about these things, which things are more along our lines, which things are more somebody else's job. These are things that are right in our wheelhouse, right? This is stuff that, religious holiday, the religious professionals, those are great things. What else?
Should probably put counseling on there, because a lot of times you need resources for that. You have to give handouts, homework, study material.
Pastoral counseling, yeah. We can start with this, a good idea to probably take photos of this as you're thinking this through. I think what I'm seeing here is that we could do more refinement and more time looking at some of these things together and come up with more whiteboarding sessions when I did this the last time. Well, brainstorming is what it's called, right? We say whiteboarding, but brainstorming is what the regulation calls it. Or not the regulation, but the guide. And you find this actually in the guide, what's it called? CRM guide. Yeah, it's not regulatory at all, but it's there, it's very useful. That Chaplain Son came up with probably 3 or 4 years ago. If you need that, let me know. All right, so
before that, I think there's one thing I think is the contracts.
contract for what?
Well, some places do not have chaplains. And it's within the power of the chaplain to bring that up and find a way to supply.
Okay.
If there's no funding, contract is part of the issue because when I was in Romania, I had to contract a priest. If there was no funding for that, it wouldn't happen. And so just was something.
So contracting a religious support professional. If you don't like the word professional, you minister, but you know what we're talking about. So, all right, let's go through some of these and let's look at these. I think let's look at them for the religious support values, and then we'll talk about so what. Think of this as I'm doing it. We're going to look at it for religious support value, and then we're going to take that same idea and look at how we fund it. And is it something that we can fund, we should fund, and how should we fund it? All right. Let's start with cookout, even though it's not a one, but it looks like it is. We'll start with cookout. What is it's not just relationship with a woman. We know that happens. But that's not enough to really justify it, right? It's got to be a little bit, it's got to have religious support value. So how do you make, and I have done cookout before that have had that in. How do you make it religious support? How does that further the goals that you have?
Well, you can do a chapel open house, meet the chapels, have fellowship with people in the community.
Okay, good. So you can bring them in here, and then are you going to do like some sort of a devotional message or something?
You can do a devotional with that. You can have a room for counseling if anyone wants to come in and speak with one of the chaplains off to the side. You can provide the resources, Bibles, books, and so forth. I've done that before.
And so this can be done at the chapel, but it can also be done out in your units, right? Out in the back, behind you can have a cookout, something like that. I would say it should have, maybe even must have, some sort of a devotion or something like that, or some sort of a spiritual fitness message that really meets the needs of your soldiers. I think that's a safe thing to say that it should have that.
And I think they expect that. They're coming to something the chaplain's doing. I think they expect to put up with 5 minutes of, something from the Bible.
Yeah, and you might surprise them. They may actually enjoy it if you're good at what you do. And hopefully, if you're not good at what you do, then you go to somebody for help.
Yeah.
So when I did the cookouts, it wasn't in a program or anything. It was just me and 2 other buddies that wanted to do it. It was literally the only reason we did it is because there's too many people in a barracks. And then it turned into like, okay, well, everyone's coming. And like, I was actually surprised, like half our unit didn't even know we had a chaplain. So like that, when we were doing the cookouts, that's how everyone knew there was a chaplain on the post that they could go talk to for like at least a week.
And did you have him say anything?
So the chaplain never came to him. We invited him every time, but he never came, and he got at least 15 guys to come to his office about a week or a week and a half afterwards. They come to meet him. So he never came to it. This was just me and 2 buddies doing stuff with other guys in the barracks when we did it.
What was the funding source?
We bought chicken. This was just something that me and 2 of our friends did. We went out. I bought hamburgers, he bought steak, and the other buddy bought chicken, and we had steaks, burgers, and chicken. And we sat out there and talked about, got all the CQs to come out off their desk for at least 10 minutes apiece, and then we've got everyone in the barracks who are like crumpled up in a corner in a dark space to come out and see the light.
And I think that when you're talking about that, I think it was effective kind of by mistake in a way, and it wasn't the way that we're talking about doing this at all, because you guys pulled money out of your own pocket, right? And the chaplain was not involved, and it was effective to get people into the chaplain's office, but is there a chance it would have been more effective if it had been planned, if the chaplain was involved, if we used the correct funding source? Because actually it is quasi-illegal to use your own money to fund ministry. Actually, it's completely illegal, but you're creating an obligation to the government. I know it sounds bizarre, but if I buy services from Gunter and Sons, right, and I pay for it out of my own pocket, I've just created a need for the government. Because if I didn't need it, I wouldn't have done it. You see how that works? Obviously, I thought we needed it because I went and did it. So I just created a need for the government. And that's illegal.
Whoops. Because this was just like, hey, let's cook out, guys. That's how that started.
And that's fine.
It was like,
Let's cook out, guys, it's fine. But if it had been a religious support event, then it would have been illegal. So what you guys did is fine. It's just called being a friend, right? We do ministry all the time with friends and stuff. We reach out to other people just to minister to them, and that's fine. There's nothing illegal about that. But when it comes to the religious support realm, which is kind of what we're talking about here, that's where it needs to be funded. So how would you fund a cookout? How would you fund a cookout?
So you have to reserve space, like maybe a park.
How would you fund it?
It would be CTOF.
Could be CTOF.
Could be
CTOF.
if you're doing religious.
And what part of CTOF is that? Tabernacle? What would that fall under? Soldier support ministry. Yeah. And soldier support ministry. Actually, some of these will just identify the next word. So that can come out of that, CTOF. Where else could that money come from?
Community. Could it not come out of community if we're doing it
It could
for?
come out of the community account if it was bigger, yeah.
Okay.
That could come out of the community account and be CTOF money. It's still CTOF money. Where else could it come from besides CTOF money?
Commanders.
So commander can pay for food, however, there's some stipulations and what goes along with that.
To think that through. He can certainly buy.
So he can pay for food for an event for like marriage training, right? I don't. Man-sponsored chaplain-led programs is what the category falls under, right? And so you can tap into command dollars. Often they want a legal review for those types of things, but just to buy food to feed soldiers, I'm pretty sure your legal review is going to say, yeah, no.
So appropriate funds are talking about money that Congress gives to the commander students. So if you did get food, which you can get with appropriated dollars, what are some things you would have to think about? Think about food. If you're going to give food to soldiers, the commander pays for it, what do you have to do?
Serving certificates.
Probably has to be there probably has to be a head count, right? Because do commanders pay for food?
Mm-hmm.
Every day, right? So you need to take head count, probably some of that needs to go in there, so you need to probably coordinate that with your whoever provides food in your unit. So you'll be talking to your S4, you'll be talking to, at some point you'll be talking to the DFAC manager. You would need to coordinate that to them, but you can do it with the appropriate funds. What about all the stuff that comes with a cookout? What do you need with a cookout? let's see, we just can't, so we're gonna be there at the cookout, here at the cookout, I've got a grill, okay, we've got one of those.
Grill, utensils.
I can get a grill, where can I get a grill?
MWR.
MWR, right? You get a grill, you grill, need some utensils, probably like a little tin plate over here. How do I get like the tin plate and then the little tin, not a tin plate, but tin,
Aluminum pans.
all the little things, right? Probably some flatware and some plates. And what else do I have? How am I doing on time?
You got time for a break, but you're good.
Do you break?
It's an hour.
I'll just go, I'm sorry. Okay, so let's finish this one up and then we'll take a break. So where do I get money for all those things that I just envisioned in my mind? Does that come out of CTOP, soldier support money? I can do it, right? Go to Chick-fil-A and be like, hey, can you hook us up with some plates? They'll do it. Maybe that's a good use of money. Where else can you get that stuff?
Ask your command for it.
Appropriated funds, right? That's appropriated funds stuff all day long. You don't go borrow it from the chapel or pull it out of your own pocket. None of that. It's appropriate funds. And you build that into your CMRP. One of the things that I've done, and I think a lot of us tend to do, is we tend to think in terms of the things that we're doing. And man, I got to fill up the calendar with stuff that I'm doing. So it looks like I'm super busy so that nobody will question why they're paying me, a 6-figure salary or whatever it is. And that's not the right answer. That's the wrong way to see it. The first thing you have to ask yourself is, what is it that I, a minister of the gospel, a priest from God, what is it that I have in that capacity that the soldiers need, that they really need? And I'm talking about the more important things we do. I mean, hey, if I'm going to be a chef, I can go to the meat back and do that. So, what do I have to really offer, and why am I doing these things? Because that piece is bigger than what you're doing. Because otherwise you're just busy. And some say, well, then you're going to get a top lock. I don't even think you get a top lock. What you got to sell the commander on is that I'm going to take care of the spiritual needs of your soul. And I'm going to do that by having a Bible study. I'm going to do that by having a prayer breakfast and spiritual fitness. I'm going to do that by taking them, my soldiers, to do community relations, to teach them about service. Right? These are just vehicles to deliver the thing that you really have, that you want to give to soldiers. And that, I think, is, we've got to keep that foremost in our mind, is I think sometimes we sell ourselves short. I mean, you see all the suicides and all the things that are going on, it's not some inflack or some spiritual fitness event that's going to, not spiritual fitness event, sorry. It's not some sort of interesting talk that somebody's going to give or something that's going to save them from that. There's deeper spiritual questions that are going on that no mental health professional can fix with drugs. Because we know a lot of people commit suicide on those drugs. Yes, sir.
So, sir, I think another thing too that you offer them, you offer the command and you offer your soldiers is wisdom. Because sometimes I think especially those that know to seek wisdom, they are looking for the source of wisdom. Generally your chaplain's a little older, a little more education, a lot more education in a lot of cases. But more than anything, if they over time realize that you really walk with the Lord, that you're that source of wisdom. And I think that's something that is
and these are deeper things that kind of go with this.
Yeah.
And I think you have to ask yourself, which guy am I? Am I the guy that's more of the not wise guy, but the wisdom kind of guy that kind of sits back and lets people come to me? And because of my personality, they're drawn to me and they come to me? That's one type of person. Am I the glad hander? It's just my personality. I'm out there shaking hands, praying for people. Is that me? Is that who I am? Am I something in between? Am I something, what is it that I have that you have? Well, you're asking yourself, what is it that I have and how does that fit in one of these vehicles. And if I'm not the glad-hander guy, if I'm more reserved, do I need to have a bunch of events that focus on being a glad-hander? Probably not. You're not going to be able to sustain it. You can fake it a little bit. Am I going to try to be the wise soul, but everybody sees me as a glad-hander guy? It's not going to work. So we really have to ask ourselves, at the core of this is, who am I? How does it shape my ministry? And how do I use these vehicles and this funding and these resources to do what God has called me to do for these soldiers in this place? Check? So that's kind of a deeper philosophical thing that we have to ask underneath all this. Don't just fill up your CMRP with a bunch of stuff. Now, we did talk about the importance of, hey, maybe some of this stuff is pretty standard, like a prayer breakfast or fitness luncheon. I mean, it's still just a luncheon, right? So whatever I call it. Are there some things here that are just kind of standard basic things that we should build into all of our CMRPs? Because really, if you're forecasting, sometimes you're even forecasting for the next guy, right? And we have to do it in the RSO, you know, ecclesiastical supplies. We have to think about, okay, there won't be this guy here next year or the year after, but there will be a guy that looks like this and needs these same things the next year. And the same thing in your ministries, in a year maybe, but for most of us it's a change out, right? So you're forecasting for the next person. So maybe some of these are like the best practices, right? I don't usually make air quotes. Best practices that we need to just put into the CMRP and think about that, right? So, good. And they're all kind of, and that's where the funding comes in, because some of these things, after a while you just get it, like, oh, that's where the money comes from this. So we said that with this cookout, you can use CTOF money, social support money, or you can use appropriated funds. You can use a combination of those. Right? For instance, plates, cups, saucers, flatware, appropriate funds. Soldier ministry kicks in $500 for food. Maybe that makes sense. But there's some overlap, and you have to understand how that works. We've had this discussion in the office, and we had this discussion down at Fort Jackson when we were just down there. Use appropriated funds whenever possible. Use the CTOF, because we have lots of CTOF. The fact of the matter is, you're trying to ministry. So use the funding wisely, and there's a word, fiduciary. You know fiduciary? What a fiduciary is? A fiduciary looks out for everybody's interest in a transaction, right? You're looking out for whose best interest are you looking out for? Ministry, right? The commander's dollars, the money that people put in the plate, right? You're an honest broker. You don't care. You don't pick a side. You're not. Well, we're gonna always spend CTOF because I like the commander. I want him to spend his money. But you're also not like, yeah, I'm going to totally grab money out of the CTOF because I can't figure out how to ask my commander for money. So that's your kind of your role, is to think that through, and what's the best use of this money. We should use appropriated funds as much as possible, because whose program is it? Commander's program. So to the degree that you can get appropriated funds, you should be using appropriated funds. But if you're like that guy, I'm always going to use appropriated funds, and then you don't have any funds, are there other creative ways, not creative as in, Rod Blagojevich, get in trouble and have to get parked by the president kind of stuff, but as in like legitimate, ethical ways to get this funded? Yes?
So there's two areas of funding that we didn't bring up yet. One of them is, it's the more rare one, which is the Chief of Chaplain's grant. So you can.
Which is not more, they don't do
That's why we're not.
Okay, thanks for that new knowledge now.
Well,
So the other one is,
each garrison is supposed to come up with that money at the end of the year to pay to fund grants like that now, but we don't know how that works because nobody's figured it out.
okay, that is brand new news. I appreciate that. So the other area of funding that I'm pretty familiar with is the USO Stronger Families. And when you can actually take USO Stronger Families and you can actually tag it onto a strong box and get not only a speaker who's been doing it for probably 100 times more than you. Not saying you're shirking your responsibility, but I'm just saying you've got a USO speaker who does that USO oxygen training, the same one that's in Strongbox. And he or she will come, they pay for him, and they give you $500 extra if you want it for pretty much almost anything. So that's an amazing source of funding right there.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a real problem with that. The thing is, be careful. Do you see Elf? Remember the movie Elf? Everybody's seen Elf, right? Mm-hmm. Right? And the two riders, their big idea is to hire a rider. You don't want to be those guys, right? So just be careful with that, and be careful with mixing money. Just think it through and make sure it's ethical.
Well, no, it absolutely is, and I've worked this for over 2 years now. So Strong Bonds absolutely supports it, and so I'm just telling you, it's gold, and a lot of people don't know it.
I was gonna say, I think you have to run that through Strong Bonds, because they have an MOI.
Mm-hmm.
And so they require you to use whatever their approved curriculums are. So if you're staffing it,
Yeah.
and they're giving you your green light,
I've done them at least 8 times.
Yeah, my concern is something like, okay, let's say we have an influx that's really got some great program, and we say, hey, we're gonna fund the influx in her program, or his program, and we spend a bunch of religious support dollars to fund their programs, right? That can be questionable. Not saying it is necessarily, but some of that stuff makes me a little nervous, because we have something that we can offer. So it just makes me a little nervous, and I just think we have to think through it. And I mean, we make decisions all the time that are good decisions, but they're, and I do think creativity is good. But you understand where I'm going, right? I'm just saying, let's think those things through.
Well, no, and you're absolutely right. So I think you think it through, and you think about what your gifts are, and like you may be gifted in speaking, and you may be gifted in pastoral, but what if you could bring in someone who did the speaking part and really did it really, really well, and freed you up to do the pastoral? Now, why would you pass that up? Why on earth would you pass that up? That's all I'm saying.
All right, I love it.
Speaking of, if I can real quick, speaking of USO funding sources, you could always get them too to bring food to one of your events. So when we did that at Leonardwood, they brought their food trailer out for our closing day of BBS. So everybody got free food. We did the anniversary celebration, and the USO provided it. We didn't cost a thing. It was still a religious event, but they just provided the food.
Yeah, there's no shame in that game,
Right.
right? As long as it's something that's already available, this is the key. It has to be available out there.
Right.
And you can't go and solicit it. Because if you go and solicit it, you've just committed to government. If I come to, Tony's, hey, Fat Tony's, and you guys got pizzas, can you hook me up with some pizzas? But he hasn't already offered that out to everybody. And I ask him if he can provide those for me. As an agent of the government, I just told him we need pizza. And if he gives it to me, he could build a government. We just didn't negotiate the price. Now I've just obligated the government. And you'd say, well, that's ridiculous. Well, yeah, but Fat Tony doesn't think so. He's going to get some money. Yeah. Oh,
So, what if we ask the question to partner with us in our program, and they just bring the food?
I mean, if they offer that and you didn't ask for it, I
Okay.
think you're probably good, but I'm just telling you that's where the gray line is.
Okay.
And just, as long as you understand the philosophy behind it, that's why I give you the philosophy behind it. Just understand that that's the philosophy. So if you think that you're getting close to the edge of that, just check yourself before you. Sorry, I'm going back to our time.
If you said to somebody like that, because I can relate to what when it's talking about, you said, and maybe the way to say it is, how much, sir, with your business, how much would you charge us? Because we're looking at options. How much would you charge us to partner with us and do this? And the business owner says, look, for you guys, nothing. It's my way of saying
That's
things.
fine. You're just asking for an estimate. You're not getting
Yep.
a commitment. You're not getting a bid. You let them know, hey, it's just an estimate, ballpark figure, or not ballpark figure. What would it cost to do something like this? That's just kind of market research, that's fine, you just need to make sure that they know you're not obligating the government. And
Okay.
I'm not saying we are gonna do this, but if we were gonna do this, kind of what would it cost? Because we do that all the time with like strong bonds and things like that, right? You can do that, you can do some market research. Yes?
What you're saying here is, no outside entity we do not approach outside entities asking them to donate stuff to us.
Yes.
And if it is in any way looking like that, or can be framed that way, that's wrong. However, any outside entity can offer stuff to us, and we can accept it. I've actually, when I was at Colorado Springs, working with the tent group, there's a big organization called Homefront Cares. And they supported every time we came back from the field, which was every 6 months it seemed like. They partnered with Domino's Pizza and would literally provide 50 to 70 pizzas every single time for stuff. And I called the guy on the phone and he's like, wait, stop. He stopped me and said, how can I provide services to you to support our service? And he actually read a statement to me that he had in his wallet.
That protected you.
That protected me and allowed it to happen. And it was, he knew the system, but if we go try to work some sort of tug and pull and kind of.
Yeah, you know you're wrong. Hey, I was just wondering if you guys could partner with us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And we really could use some food, but I'm not asking you to get any.
There's ways we can do that, but if we're just pulling teeth that way, then it's probably wrong all around.
That's probably correct, yes, sir.
Oh, and also, when you're using appropriated funds, back to what you were saying about an estimate or quote, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to do that anyway. Especially if you're getting something catered or something like that.
Like
So
get 3 bids.
You gotta get your market research. I mean, somewhere like Fairbanks, Alaska, you may not have that, meaning you don't have to have that
That's a
many
good
quotes
point.
because of
Good reminder.
regions and things like that. But always, when you're using appropriate funds, always working with your JAG and the MEC office, the contracting office, to always cover your end.
Yeah.
Don't go off and do something, because somebody else said we used to do that at Fort Bragg all the time, or this and that.
We used to be wrong at Fort Bragg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So always gotta, cross your T's, dot your I's.
Plenty of that. Okay, let's move on to this. Community relations, providing something for people outside the installation or on the installation. If you were providing something to people on the installation, is that good? Yeah, it is, right? Target audience is people on the. If you're doing it off the installation, who is your target audience really?
Families?
So it's the people, it's your soldiers that you're trying to get to do service, right? It's not our job to go out and reach the community with dollars from the army. Don't get where I'm going with that. So,
No, normally, like we set up in Europe, so part of the Bible command mission there is community relations. In view of the fact of getting the community to kind of embrace the U.S. mission overseas. So that's part of that's a huge mission, that community relations for the commanding general in Europe right now. Because like Bulgaria, Romania, and all, Germany, and all these areas, the commanders want to see the community come to our side because the Russians have some, they are doing some politics there. The commanders don't want to take chances. So that comrade is very valuable.
yes.
So the way our soldiers get involved is also helps in building their morale and resilience. So we take soldiers with us, go to the village or orphanage or school or something like that, something that actually makes the community feel loved by the Americans who are there.
Right.
So by doing that, you are doing so many functions. First of all, making sure that the soldiers their morale by taking them out, you get them ready for the mission, and at the same time helping the mission to move forward because everything is all about readiness.
So let me ask you a question. Are you a civil affairs officer?
No, but in coordination with the civil affairs.
Okay, but you see where I'm going with this?
What's
That's-
our name?
That's fine if that fits, like these partnerships we're talking about, that's fine if it fits, but what's the religious, what is your role in it? Like, my role, I've seen the Navy do this in other countries, they actually have, there's command dollars and things for this, they do the community relations events, and the command, so then the chaplain's role in it is to get people from that, whatever unit, to go and serve people, and that's a spiritual thing, right?
It's also purely spiritual because in some of those areas we went to the orphanage and schools, we actually had a religious services there. With the soldiers, of course, with the approval of the commander, the soldiers we had like services, community services, and have some spiritual instruction and everything.
Okay, so where's the problem then? You see any issue there? Anybody see any issue there? Providing religious support for people who are not statutory people that we provide for. I mean, we do it anyway, we have retirees and everything, but who's our statutory commitment to?
Uniform personnel, DOD schools.
Well, this is within the scope of the comrade that the commander has on his program. So the chaplain now tries to fix himself in that his priority by going there and trying to use his influence as a chaplain, as a spiritual leader, to influence that particular group for the benefits of the mission.
Which is the civil affairs mission, right?
The civil affairs mission is together because the civil affairs will not offer religious support. The chaplain does. So as far as the commander approves that and says you can as well take religious aspect of your mission to incorporate with that of the civil affairs to make sure that the mission is accomplished.
I'd just be really careful to keep the line straight on that because that can get real slippery real quick. And you understand where I'm going? Your job is to provide religious support for uniformed personnel. Now I know as a priest, it's also, I mean, you may partner with the local diocese and help out in that regard, I understand that. But as a chaplain, also a priest chaplain, but as a chaplain, my paycheck, the reason that they pay me, the money they pay me is uniform personnel and authorized DOD folks. That's where so I'm the money guy, right? That's my job, I'm the money guy. And when we're talking about money, the commander's religious support dollars would not go to something like that. It would be dollars that were like, I don't know, G9 or whoever, what is it, G9 or somebody does. Who is it, civil affairs? G9? S9? I should know that. I think so. Nobody else does, so I don't think that. Yes.
So we kind of run into that, let's not just take it out of Europe, let's take it out of context. Let's say, an RSO, chaplain of defense, we're going to talk about that. The chaplain wants to invite all the ministers from off post to come in for a luncheon. I can't spend money on that because you're spending money on the principle of the thing is community outreach. You're spending money on non-DOD personnel and it's non-Title 10 personnel. So I can't spend money on that. But if I would say I wanted to have a chaplain luncheon and they just happen to show up,
Well, you can invite them.
you can invite them. That's one thing. But the way the frame is, you cannot spend money on outside entities with CTOC, especially, or commander's dollars. Civil affairs and their thing, they may have some SOP or whatever reg that gets away to them and let them spend money on that. But as far as religious support and Title 10 money, if your commander is giving you money, you cannot spend money on outside. So like when you said you did services off post, the key was, were your soldiers there?
The soldiers were there. That's what
Okay, so they can attend the service that you're providing for the soldiers. But it can't be, I'm providing a service for the Romanians, and then my soldiers just have to show up. That you can't provide services for off-post people.
Unless they're remaining soldiers, but it's.
You could take a group of soldiers
So let's
or
use an
congregants
example
to a
here.
food pantry.
So let's
to
use an
serve,
example
right?
that we have right here in Wayfair. Knights of Columbus feeding our awesome, our whatever, outstanding dependents. Knights of Columbus reaching out and providing food for military personnel whose families are on deployment. Why is that okay? Why is that okay? Knights of Columbus is not tied up for religion. Why is it okay?
You're also part of that chapel community.
They're part of the chapel community.
Part of the chapel community.
So it's ministering to the Knights of Columbus, so they get a chance to serve. And it's also, who are they serving?
They're serving military personnel and their families.
Military personnel and their families. Okay, so that's totally clear.
And just to be clear on that, the Catholic and Anglican congregations are providing that, Knights of Columbus are assisting. Just to be clear on that.
Sure.
But anyway,
And we have organizations that we use in our chapel as like Awana, we have different organizations that are outside that we use as vehicles. Now, let's say the same Knights of Columbus, well, it's not these Knights of Columbus. It's the Knights of Columbus, right? Not on those Knights of Columbus. Let's use the Knights of Columbus of 5th Street, Fairbanks. I don't know if they have that. And they want, and one of their members happens to be military, and he says, we want to reach out to the people who live under the bridge and provide them with sandwiches. And since I work on a military post, I'm going to go ahead and get money for you guys to feed sandwiches to the guys under the bridge. Is it a good thing to feed sandwiches to the guys under the bridge? Is that a good thing?
That's a good thing.
It's a good thing. Is it a good thing the Knights of Columbus does it?
It's a good thing.
Yes. Their spiritual act of worshiping God is to go provide sandwiches for people on the bridge. Is it a good thing to fund it with U.S. military dollars?
That's not a good thing.
Not okay. Do you understand the difference? And that's kind of the dividing line, I think, if we look at the Knights of Columbus here. So community relations, how do we fund that?
So that would be soldier support and appropriated funds, I think.
That'd be CMOP, right? And it could be the community, I think we use a community account here, as like a community outreach, right? I think that's how we do it. Could be soldier support too, you could get that. We're gonna get rid of sub-accounts too, but that's not something. Okay, so this is a good thing, but again, just be careful about that. Let's keep going, we have prayer breakfast, prayer lunch, and those kinds of things. Good thing, right? Pretty standard. Guys, what's the religious aspect of that?
We have a devotion, breakfast, and
So probably heard a message, right?
it's a message, the speaker,
Heard a message. And that comes where we put that from.
that is.
Both.
Could be both, right? Yeah. And yeah, could be both. Okay. Prayer breakfast. And this gonna, so if you put this on your CMRP, is it likely that the next person can use it?
Yes.
Yes.
So that's, maybe some of these things are just like standard things that you put into our CMRP. As like, this is what we're doing, and then you project kind of how you think it will be funny. Let them figure out the details. That's how we can be good planners and set them up for success, set ourselves up for success. That's what I was gonna say. Think when you think prayer breakfast and luncheons and things, think about audience too. Like, is this a command deal? Like we're gonna talk about, we're gonna have the commander there, he's gonna be speaking, the keynote speaker. This is like a command prayer breakfast, and it's encouraging all of our leaders spiritually. Or is this, hey, I'm gonna get the soldiers together, we're gonna talk about stuff that applies to them type of event. Because those are both things where we feed people, but they're two different kinds of events, so just think that through. So we can use both for this one. NWR troops.
That's a big one.
No.
It's not our way.
That would be.
Not our name. It is NAF, but it's not our NAF. Somebody else provides for it. So, and there's nothing wrong with saying, so here's where you can do something. You can say, hey, I'm gonna go on this trip that they're sponsoring, and if you wanna come along, come home, something like that. And there might be some way to.
The reason why that was relevant to what we're talking about is those who are deployed to Jordan and Syria and Israel, the chaplain organizes visits to the holy sites.
Okay?
Holy sites, like Jordan, Malibu, the Wailing Wall, and So they all, this is the one side, so they, sometimes they come under the emperor.
So is that our lane? Go
Yes,
visit holy sites.
I think
That's right in our
Yes,
lane.
that's our
we call
lane.
that spiritual fitness.
Yeah.
Or you can,
Essentially,
that
that would be-
MWR has money that they can fund a trip like that, and it really has significance spiritually, then yes, you're good. But, and that's where you can get creative, but you need to, you see what I'm saying as far as like, the second one you mentioned had actual spiritual significance to it, and I would be careful unless you are partnering with MWR, which is, that's probably more complicated than what I can get. But if you are partnering with them, then it probably needs to be billed that way, like MWR chaplain trip, something like that. But if it's just for morale, we
No, not just one, but it comes under that, it's coming under that same, because there's nothing like visit the both sides, standing on his phone. So it comes somehow under the hand of God too.
And the same thing with the duty day with God. Now, how do you fund? So those are both the same kinds of things, aren't they?
I was about to say that, like visiting a holy site is duty day with God. I mean,
So visiting the holy sites or duty day with God, whichever one you're going to have, getting away, taking the soldiers away somewhere with some spiritual significance, whether it's visiting a holy site. In Fort Bliss, they hiked up the mountain, right? And there was a cross at the top, and they did the stations with the cross along the way. That's totally within our realm. How do we pay for it? What do I need?
So I need transportation getting out there,
Transportation. There's a lot of ways to get transportation. What's the easiest probably way to do that?
TMPs.
TMP, as long as I'm not taking family with me, right? And then there's, if you, so this is more complicated, I'm not gonna get into that, but there's actually, some memorandums about how you can actually do that too, but.
Yeah, you can get an EMPTP, yep.
So we could use, like TMP vehicle, that comes out of the commander budget, so that's appropriated funds.
You can get charter,
You can do a charter, yeah.
just commander funds.
And that can be out of commander's funds, probably gonna be a little more complicated with the G8 and all this other mess, but you can do that too, that's another way to do it, appropriate funds. Combo, we're trying to kill that horse, contract religion professional, that comes from appropriate funds.
Yes.
And, there's a whole process to that, chapter district, you have to report it to death with it. Provide AV and the VTC. Out of our dollars, or out of, where is that?
Anyway,
I think that's more of, so what I think what you're doing at, tell me if I'm wrong, is if we're in two different countries, deployed, kind of syncing up to do a service over the VTC. So we're over here, it's like 8 o'clock, we're doing a VTC for, let's say, Protestant service, and then over in Afghanistan, they have a VTC set up to attend at the same time. So kind of
Good
like,
program?
yeah.
Yeah, good program. Those facilities are already available? Yes. So then it's just us taking use of appropriated fund facilities that are already available to do ministry, so that's good. When you put that on your CMRP, you might, right, if you could forecast it, but then you would just put where those resources were coming from, so we knew we weren't paying for it out of our pocket. Bible study, that's clearly, and then for the Bible study, you talked about food, that would be NAF, right? We can't do AF for Bible study food, right? I don't think that would be confusing because the commander provides food for the soldiers, so then there'd have to be a head count, all this other stuff would be very confusing.
So like I was telling Chuck Check during the break, at Fort Campbell, the way we got around that is, so your commander can buy food for any of your events that you do. The only stipulation is you still have to allow the soldiers to be able to attend the DFAC. So that way the commander, you know, yes, he's investing more in food than he already pays for food. But, so the soldiers can't put a complaint in and say, hey, I didn't get it, you know, now I want the government to comp me because I missed the DFAC because of this chaplain event or whatever. And so they can't do that. you know, if you run your event during lunch or breakfast or dinner time, you have to allow them the opportunity to attend the DFAC, and that's how you get around the legal stipulation of especially singles. Married soldiers, not so much, but single soldiers in specific, you know, that have meal cards.
Who's done their event in the DFAC before? Okay, so there's another way to get, you don't even have to think about that part from a resource perspective. And that, you can put it on your CMRP, but again, you won't put down, we're gonna do it in the DFAC, and then you don't have to put down where the funding comes from. All right, UMG, trade, internal and external, is there anything you said about that? Where does the UMG training come from? What dollar?
Chief Chaplains.
Chief Chaplain.
Money?
So team-wise complicated, let's not get into that. Some of it, but you still would put it in you need to put it in there, but you need to know where the money's coming from. For instance, we just went to a training, part of the money came from centrally funded, so that part was not in our CMRP. We probably could have put it in there that was part of it, but the part that went in our CMRP that had to do with appropriated funds was the travel to get there. So that needs to go in the CMRP, your endorsers, conference. And the fee for that, should go in there. Cast, did go in there, something like that. I don't know if they go there. So all those things should be in your CMRP. Title 10 religious support, no brainer, that comes from. Can that be paid for with that? No, right? I mean, to some degree, we do pay for some religious things with that, arguably. But when we're talking about a Title 10, you should be there on Sundays as often as practical. That's at 100%. Games, movie night. I think this is the same as some of these others we talked about, where you get the money for that. Studio with God, same thing. Also, we were talking about that. Spiritual fitness event, maybe we're paying for that. Okay, what about the coffee station?
That would be
No, you can't buy a coffee station with CCOF. No. Coffee station gets bought with what? Half. Now, can I buy a coffee station and put it down here in the hall where all the people work, and it's for the congregation? I know a guy who did this and spent $2,500 at some place I won't mention, you'll figure out who he is. He's high up in the chaplain corps now. And his boss really loved him, but was it ethical? Can I do that? Can I put a coffee station over there and pay for that with appropriate funds? Absolutely not. That's called an ethical violation. I love the guy to death, and I drank some of his coffee, and that was wrong. And then the thing you gotta think about that is too, how does that actually fit our ministry goals? You know, is it encouraging soldiers to kind of hang out in your area and they give you a chance to pick one of them off from time to time? Probably legit. You just need to think that through.
You know, and it also goes into, you know, even the RSO, but let's say you do an event, like Gunther did the spiritual event, this PT event this morning, right? Let's say your commander bought cups and coffee and all this stuff like that. And then you start using those cups in your office as your personal, you know, coffee cups and stuff now. Now you're breaking over into the ethics thing again, because you didn't buy you have leftover cups from the event, but you didn't buy the coffee cups for you to have in your own personal office in your stash. That's a whole different thing of funding. That's a whole different thing. It's like here in RSO, we buy a lot of that stuff. We can't use the plastic cups for our own game. Haven't seen it done. Maybe, maybe not, but that's where it also goes down the line too, is you can't, as the RSO and as the chaplain staff, you can't benefit from the events that you do later on after.
And it's a fuzzy line to some degree. It's pretty strong, but it's also fuzzy to some degree. You know, the Czech kids can't eat at the Czech kids can't eat at the buffet because they're chaplain's kids and everybody else gets, no, that's not what we're saying at all.
Yeah.
But if the Czechs decide, hey, there's 15 pizzas here that got left over, I should take those to my house, now you're really getting over that line. maybe better to dish those pizzas out to the hungry, younger families or take them to the gate or something. You know, there's, again, we're not gonna go to jail over it, but it's super fishy. Just be careful. All right. Care package ministry, funding can come from where for the care packages? So there's stuff that goes, so can we pay for postage? Not really. No, we can't pay for postage. So that would have to come out, someone would have to, so if we're doing that, we're just probably just like organizing it. But the people would fill it with things they want to fill it with, and the funding for the shipping it, it probably comes out of somebody else's pocket, not ours. I'm thinking like the Samaritan's Purse one is an example of that. This care package is sold downrange. We want to organize it, that's fine. I don't know that we can pay for like the goods and stuff to the side of it. That would be a stretch. Okay, we're almost done here.
Launch the sections.
Thoughts? How would we pay for that? Soldier ministry, right?
I think it would be the same as a prayer breakfast, essentially as funding goes.
Okay, funding's probably the same. Are those family, are those people in the directorates, are they authorized folks? Okay, they are? That's good. So that's something that you have to just think about, what's the religious support value in that. But we can take it with like CTOP money, obviously. And like a community camp probably, so we're not gonna have accounts kept going forward, so just forget about the whole account. But it comes out of the CTOP. Ministerial or ecclesiastical supplies?
Half, yeah.
That's
Title 10.
commander pays for that. Whether it's commander of the garrison or whether it's commander of the, you know, F troop of the 7th, 3rd Cavalry, or whatever it is.
Right.
Commander pays for that. And pastoral care and housing supplies?
Half.
Right down. Oh, thought this was gonna be a lot easier than it was. Has this been helpful for you to think through some of these things? Yes.
There's just one more thought is, one thing that I think Chaplain Densford was here when he was kind of the expert that helped us through this. We were at NTC a year ago, and we had a speaker that we wanted to bring in to lift the morale at the end of the NTC. And so we contemplated with CTOF, do you remember this? Would CTOF help pay for the speaker? And I think we concluded that somehow you guys concluded that we could help. We didn't fully fund it, but we helped, and we joined with the chapel at Fort Irwin, and we brought the speaker in. It was a comedian actually, and he was a clean comedian, and it was like a morale lifter. But it was kind of a creative way to.
Spiritual morale lifter? Is it a Christian comedian? Or a
Well, he was
Buddhist
a Christian.
comedian, or?
Yeah, he was a clean comedian, but he did clean comedy.
Was there a religious aspect? to his
Yes, of
speaking?
course there was.
Yes.
So
Yeah, he
So
spoke.
was it Buddhist
He
chapel?
did
Buddhist,
two.
priest?
Well, he did two presentations. He did one at the chapel. And then he did one at the what is that called? The name of that place that's where they have all the soldiers. There's the Ruba. So he did one at the Ruba and he did one at the chapel. So yeah, I mean,
Because that
absolutely.
would be my concern, is it religious support? I hate to be that guy, but it just seems like what we do.
Okay, but I think you're missing something, if I may. And again, definitely respect. That you've been in a lot of years, so you definitely know. But what I'm wanting to know is, so if AR 165 says that part of our responsibility is for the lifting of morale, the sustainment of morale.
We never say that. You
Actually
assess
says-
morale. You assess morale. You advise on morale. You don't live morale. There's nowhere in this.
Well, but it does say, because I did, actually, this is part of my CLIPS program, but it does say that we are part of the building of morale, or the encouraging of morale. And I'll show you that. It's
You advise and plan on morale. You don't provide for morale.
But it does say we're not supposed to be MWR officers.
No,
Right,
we're not
so-
supposed to be
so
MWR.
that's-
But I'll show you, I can show you afterward.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll show you afterward. But
Our
it's,
job is to we're that commercial where the guy says, well, I can't tell you how to fix it, they just tell you it's broken.
Right.
When it comes to morale. Because that is not our job is not morale officers, our job is not in the morale lane, it's in the religious support lane, and we've gotta keep that super clear in our own mind at least,
Right.
because that's super important. Your job is to assess morale as an advisor to the commander. Sir, I think morale is terrible because all the soldiers just took off their uniforms, threw down their weapons, and left the post.
Yeah, but you, in a sense of, as part of the sustainment part of the Army, we're also encouraged to help the building of morale. And I think I can make a
That's not your job. Just to be frank with you, that your job is religious support. Now, does that build morale? Sure, but that's not regulatory. Your job is, you're here because of Title 10. You do increase people's morale.
Right.
But that is not you did that, by the way, as you increase people's spiritual.
Well, you keep the connection to the spiritual. Don't get me wrong. You keep the connection to the spiritual. But I think those two don't have to be disconnected. You keep that connection.
Right.
I mean, you're not the MWR.
The reason I'm saying this is because a lot of people get this really confused.
Right.
So you are a religious support professional. You are hired because you provide religious support. We have an MWR entity,
Right.
and they provide MWR stuff, and they're also supplied for by NAF. But that's a totally different entity. So you really have to keep those straight. You're not a psychologist. You're not an MWR officer. You are a Presbyterian or Lutheran, right?
CMA, so we're all over the map.
So you're a CMA chaplain that was endorsed to come here, called by God to come here and minister to soldiers. That's your role. Somebody else, the dude with the little stubbly beard that does the rowing and stuff, he's the MWR guy. And yes.
If I may, sir.
Yes.
I've got some really good words of wisdom about this one was from the brigade chaplain, that was our state chaplain. Because certain commanders at certain briefs and bubs would like to come and say, well, morale's really low. What are you doing, chaplain? And they try to put on the chaplain the morale responsibility. And like you said, it is not written in there, even though, yes, we're supposed to add to it on a second and third order effect of religious support.
Yeah.
So,
what are you doing?
A word of caution.
I'm encouraging everyone to follow Jesus.
And the word of caution in there is what happens when we get out of that lane, I guess, a little bit. And so, as much as I want to help morale, and I see those effects, and I try to do that within battlefield circulation attempts and other elements of religious support. I don't want to be on the hook for the morale.
Right.
Because not all of them can be told to go to my service. It's voluntary.
And all this comes down to the reason that I'm talking about this is why. Because we are stewards of Uncle Sugar's money, right? We're stewards of it. And we need to use it the way it was intended to be used. If they decided that they needed 50 MWR officers, by golly, they would have bought 50 MWR officers. But they've decided that they needed X number of religious support professionals. And they've spent good money to hire you with a certain set of skills, right? I mean, the lawyer also improves people's morale a lot of times too by getting them off the hook, but that's not his main job. They hired you, and so we're supposed to be good stewards of that coin that the King has given us, and to use that for the thing that we do. And as you're thinking through these things, to kind of wrap it up, as you're thinking through your CMRP, you really need to be asking yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Or is it just to look busy? If it's just to look busy, then it's more time, get down on your knees, talk to God about it, figure out what it is that you really do, and then set up your money, set up your programs to further that goal.
So essentially,
yes, sir.
Essentially, morale building should be a side effect of your task, not the goal.
Right. Yeah, it is. Same thing with the cooks. Right? Although
in addition to that, in as much as the morale is not specifically, put under a major function of chaplain or chaplain corps. But everything we do is building the morale.
Right.
Because most of the places we see resiliency trips that the chaplain undertakes, which the commanders put it under the function of a chaplain in some areas. So it doesn't come pretty prominent on the chaplain list of duties, but still providing regular support boosts the morale. Everything we have listed here, they all go to boost the morale. But like you said, it's not like it's just single out, but everything we do is just readiness and morale building.
Let me give you an example, right up where you're talking about. Okay, so we had a problem here at this place. The morale of our Catholic soldiers was horrible, right? Why was it so bad? Because they couldn't attend Mass. So the Army said, man, we really want them to attend Mass, so we put out a contract for $75,000, whatever it was. And that was not to bring up a guy that does juggling or, jumps through fiery hoops. It was to bring up a priest who delivers Mass and the Eucharist to the people. And now that we have a priest that can give the Eucharist, right, and they can do their sacraments, now the morale is higher, but the goal was to get a priest who can perform a priestly function of administering the Eucharist to his parishioners. And that's what I'm talking about. And that's what you do, and that's what you bring to the fight. And so I would just encourage you, as you think through these things, what is religious about it? What is its religious function? How am I doing it? How do I best do it? And then maybe think about this. Take a picture of this maybe, start figuring out in your CMRP. We can talk more about it another time. Yes?
One last thing, notice most of what we're talking about is some excellent guidance, sir, because oftentimes the only thing I'm seeing, AR 165-1, obviously, I haven't checked the FM, but there's nothing in the ARP, or the ADP, I'm sorry. 1.05-01 for the operations process talks about, annex and running estimate, and everything else does not talk about CMRP. And so some of these things that we're talking about in the ethics part is very germane, because it helps us in, when you flesh this out, you're gonna have to flesh out the ethical part. And I'm liking the discussion. I'm just saying, but when you look towards regulatory guidance, you're not gonna really get these details. So this is great discussion.
And this all came from you guys. All this came from you guys. All we did is sit down and evaluate it together. So take this back, turn it into something beautiful in your CMRP. If you have questions about how to flesh out all the things, like you should have personnel in there, you should have all those things should be in your CMRP. If you don't know how to do that, or if you're looking at it going like this totally doesn't make sense to me because it looks like budgeting, it is. Come see me. I'll sit down with you. I'll help you work through it, and we'll get it right. I think the future of our Corps really depends on us getting this right. And so I'm glad appreciate you guys kind of sitting through this. I know it was a little bit dry at times, but really appreciate you guys, and I appreciate what you do out there. Let me pray for you guys. Lord, thank you so much that you've given us a vehicle from which to do ministry of various sorts. And Lord, I'm grateful for the ministry to which we've been called. I pray that you help us to be good stewards of the money that the Army provided for us. But we know, Lord, that everything truly comes from you. And so, Lord, we want to be good stewards of that money. We want to be good stewards of the money people put in the plate. Help us to do that. Help us to think through what we're doing and to be intentional about the ministry that we're providing to soldiers and authorized patrons. Lord, we commit our ministries to your hand, and we dedicate them as an act of worship to you. We pray all these things in Jesus' name, amen.